It's no secret that insurance is an issue here in Florida and in many other states around the country. But on the heels of the two hurricanes that just passed through Florida, we're now facing yet another issue with insurance: people's claims being denied. That's what we're talking about today. Let's dive right in. I found an article that was talking about an issue with homeowners having problems getting their claims approved. A majority of them are getting denied, actually. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons for this, but is there something else going on in the background that we don't know about? Maybe there is. According to a study released in June of 2024 by Weiss Ratings, which is the nation's only independent insurance rating company. The study revealed that 3 of the largest home insurers in Florida closed nearly half of their claims without paying a homeowner. That's without paying a homeowner, nearly half. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Dr. Martin D Weiss, who is the founder of Weiss Ratings, made this comment. In the wake of increasing property damage from storms and record insurance company bankruptcies, this high rate of claim denials is surely compounding the hardships for Florida homeowners. That's an understatement. I mean, it's getting crazy out there. I've heard of a few people that have had their claims denied seemingly for no reason whatsoever. So maybe you've got a story, share one, share it with me. Put a comment down below. I'd like to hear that. So among these providers, Castle Key Indemnity Company denied 47.1% of claims. State Farm Florida Insurance Company denied 46.4% of claims, and Castle Key Insurance Company denied 46% of claims in 2023, according to this article. In addition, 3 smaller insurers, Kin Interinsurance Network denied 44%, American Integrity Insurance Company of Florida denied 43.9%, and Pure Specialty Exchange denied 40.5% back in 2023. So the article went on to basically say that there is going to be an issue, being that last year, upwards of 45% of claims were never paid out by policyholders. Obviously, insurance companies are going to dispute this and say that, you're cherry picking, that's not that bad, this isn't what's happening. But insurers, according to the article, also made a few comments, and it makes sense as to why certain things were denied. So I'm sure there's probably situations that you can point a finger at and go, okay, this makes sense because it was an excluded item. But we're going to dive into that a little bit later. And we're also going to talk about some things that you really need to pay attention to, so that you know that your insurance policies will cover you in the event of a disaster, or that you need them. Hopefully you're never going to need your insurance policy, but in the event that you do, you want to make sure that they actually pay you and help you like they're supposed to. And before we get into that, if there's anything that I can do to answer questions about the real estate market, what have you, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the description. Just click the link and you'll be able to get the information you need to reach out, make a comment, and I'll do my best to answer it. And if you don't mind, do me a favor, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. I appreciate it. So let's dive right back into this. So to be fair, I'm sure there's logical reasons on top of, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but let's think of a few things that really could be a reason for the denials that are pretty black and white. Unpaid insurance policies. That could be an issue. So if you're behind on your payments, that might be an issue for it. Claims that aren't covered under standard policy. So you might have something that happened to your property and it's one of the items that's not covered. So you're definitely going to need to make sure you understand what actually is covered and what's not covered in your policies. And fraud. Fraud could be a big issue. To be honest, in Florida, we lead the nation, according to a study from last year, in fraudulent filings. And it got so bad that we had to enact, we meaning Florida, had to enact new legislation and laws that help prevent fraudulent insurance claims. I'm telling you, I can't make this stuff up. I literally saw somebody when I was doing a house tour. This is probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. And they had a roof company out there, and I literally saw the guy with a hammer, and they were whacking the shingles and then taking a photo of it. Now, we kind of know what that's about, right? One of the other things that could be a major factor, particularly in the recent months, is claims being denied due to flooding. If you're not in a flood zone, how many people actually have flood insurance on their house? This is definitely one of those things that I would pick up the phone and call my insurance provider and make sure you've got flood insurance and just get a quote so you understand how much it is. Look, I know we've done articles and we've had comments, both Jimmy and I, on both of our channels that talk about the astronomical insurance rates and flood insurance rates. We're really talking about coastal and places that are along like rivers and typical flood zones, right? So we have multiple levels of flood zone, but if you are not in a flood zone and then there's a catastrophe that happens like we just had, there's people in our area that are nowhere near any water, but the massive amounts of rain ended up flooding their house. And is it covered? Maybe it is and maybe it's not. It depends on their policy. Obviously, I'm not an insurance agent, but if it's not hurricane damage and it's flooding, you might get denied and you might have a fight on your hands. I certainly wouldn't give up with the first denial letter. That would just be me. But that's one of those things that I'd be on the phone talking to my provider and making sure that I had a really good understanding of how that works. And I would read that policy. I know it's probably boring, but I would read that policy. This trend of rising claims being denied really brings some concern about the resilience of Florida and what ability people have to pay. If you're damaged and your insurance policy denies you for your claim, how are you going to fix your house? Maybe it's not livable, but it was an excluded item because of it was flood or something along those lines. Everybody's situation is going to be different, but how do people pay for that stuff? How do you get your house fixed? You have to live in it. You're going to have to come out of pocket or take a loan. Do you have the ability to do that? You know, maybe you do and maybe you don't. Also, sometimes maybe the damage to your home isn't enough to file an insurance claim. Make sure that you have that money. So let's just, as an example, say you have a $10,000 deductible, but you've only got $8,000 or $9,000 of damage. Well, it doesn't make sense for you to file an insurance claim because you have to meet your deductible. So you're going to pay more versus just having the property repaired yourself. So make sure you've got that money stashed somewhere. You know, I know it's easier said than done, but make sure you've got that money in savings, because if unless your claim is big enough where they can pull the money out of the funds that they give you, meaning if your claim is paying you $25,000, they're going to take $10,000 of the deductible out and you're going to get $15,000. This is where you have to make sure you've got enough money. And is that $15,000 going to be enough to repair what you need? So there's some ins and outs, but again, this is why having a very good insurance rep is important. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know, I believe in having an insurance rep that I can go down and see face to face. I am not big on doing these insurance reps that are remote and in another state, whatever the case is. I want to be able to go down and visit my insurance representative and have a conversation with them and make sure that I understand everything that's going on with my policy. So what can you do to protect yourself? Here's a couple of things. I would recommend calling your insurance rep every year to review your policy. And one of the things that I would review in my policy is not only what's covered and what's not covered. An example would be perhaps you have a bird cage. That's what we call them in Florida. You know, the screened porch on the back of your house. Some insurance policies do not cover your bird cage. And we're not talking some of these things are tiny. Some of these bird cages are gigantic. $20,000 to have it repaired and replaced. They're not cheap. So making sure that they are covered during a storm is extremely important. I would also make sure that because of all the inflation and everything that goes on year to year, I know we're in a bad inflation time right now. It's through the roof and Florida is leading the pack. But with inflation, make sure you have enough money in your rebuild cost of your homeowner's insurance so that you can rebuild your house. And you have to take into consideration too, that you might not be able to live in your house if you've had significant damage. So you may have to make sure that your policy has alternate living clause in it where they're going to pay you some money every month. Because remember, you're still paying your mortgage. Just because the house is damaged doesn't mean that the bank doesn't want their money every month if you have a mortgage. So you might have to go rent somewhere temporarily, which means now you basically have two mortgages plus all the other expenses and stress that's going on. So just make sure that you've got some sort of coverage there too. That would be my recommendation. I would also make sure, like I said, that if you need flood insurance, obviously you're going to have to get flood insurance because the lender is going to make you have it. Some insurers, such as Citizens Insurance, which is the state's Florida's insurance, they typically require you now to have flood insurance, whether you're in a flood zone or not. And it's for the reasons that we just had illustrated, unfortunately, here with Milton and Helene. But make sure that you at least check to see if you have flood insurance. And then something else that I would make sure that you check on is your deductibles and understand those, because you could have named storm deductibles and you non-named storm or other deductibles. So it might be higher or lower. So ask those questions and then make sure that you've got your deductible, enough of that money put aside. And think about it like this. If you don't need your deductible and you never have damage, great, you've got some money sitting in savings. If you do need your deductible and your damage isn't enough to warrant an insurance claim, you've got the cash to pay for the repairs and you don't have to put it on credit. You don't have to do those kind of things, especially with the way the economy is right now. Personal belonging coverage also is something that I would check out and make sure. Who would have thought that we had such devastation with the flooding in these past two storms that you would actually need every penny of your personal belongings coverage if you have it. So just make sure that you actually have that. Hopefully, again, you never ever need that, but I would definitely double check with your provider and make sure that you've got personal belonging coverage enough to cover everything in your house. Okay, and this is a big one that you need to think about. And it doesn't have to do with your insurance company directly, but it does have to do with your HOA. So if you live in a townhouse or a villa, or your HOA covers landscaping, tree maintenance, the roof, paint, things of that nature, be careful and read your covenants and restrictions. This just happened to a neighbor of mine. A tree came down on their property. We live in an association that covers our roof. They take care of our landscaping. They trim the trees. It's all part of our dues every month. But there is a clause in there for hurricanes. So if you have a named storm and a tree comes down, it's your responsibility to take care of that tree. If you're damaged, if your roof is damaged in our HOA, you're responsible for repairing your roof, not the HOA. Even though they put the roof on and they maintain the roof, if it's damaged due to a storm, you are responsible for repairing the roof. So keep that in mind. And also keep this in mind. When you're dealing with contractors during a hurricane, make sure you confirm that they are licensed and insured. If they can't provide you with a license and they can't provide you with an insurance policy, then you probably shouldn't hire them. I know you might be desperate. I totally understand that. But there's a lot of people that come out during these storms that are unlicensed contractors, and they're there to scam you and take what little bit of money you got left. So please make sure that your service providers are licensed and insured here in Florida. There's a reason for that. And you can go to the DBPR website, the Department of Business and Professional Regulations here in the state of Florida, and check to make sure that they have an active license, or that the contractor that they're working for and that you're actually signing the contract with has an active license. Too many people take advantage of people at their worst times. It's unfortunate. And remember, please get your quotes in writing and get a detailed breakdown of what they're going to do for you. There's price gouging. People taking advantage of people. They're legal, but they're price gouging. And I'm not talking, supply and demand stuff. I'm talking price gouging in the realm of, I talked to my neighbor, they went from $2,000 to $3,000 to have the tree removed up to $12,000 to have the tree removed. And then when my neighbor asked the provider to do a written quote, the price came down to a more, $3,000 to $5,000 manageable range, because you can get in trouble for price gouging. So just be aware that those people are out there. That's today's video. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, motivates me to make more videos. And if you have questions, as always, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the description, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks.